Have at it.
Well, thank you everybody for hanging around on the last day. So I think we should start off with some introduction. So I am Jessica Jaynes. I am the PI of Project Pipeline, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a couple of slides here. But really, I am a faculty member. I am a statistician in the Department of Mathematics at California State University, Fullerton. And
I am Jennifer Johnson up here. I'm the Chief Partnership Officer for the Foundation for California Community Colleges. I'm a retired faculty member that is now unretired and I'm substituting for Dr. Craig Hayward, whose name is up there, but obviously not standing up here with us. And I have been involved since, I think, close to January of this year, having an awareness of this Learning Lab grant and behind the scenes doing some work with some of the convenings. So I'll share what our aspect of the project's about.
So just to continue the story of introduction, so we have this wonderful title here, Blueprints for Change, Building and Enhancing Degree Pathways. I want you to hold on to that word pathways. So when California Learning Lab reached out and said, hey, with your Project Pipeline, would you be willing to give a talk about what you've been doing? I was like, yeah, of course, we'd love to. And I assume, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but you would assume probably Craig said a similar thing, right? So Craig and I both get an email randomly one day, and it says, you're going to be presenting at California Learning Lab, and the two of you are going to be on a panel together. Like, great, I'm glad they connected me with somebody. So, you know, I go into the Learning Lab website, you can find grantees, and I'm like, okay, well, I look in the data science category first, and I'm all, he's not in data science, I'm in data science. Okay, I'll look a little bit of the calculus sequence, maybe he's in the calculus situation. He's not there either, so I start searching, and it leads me to the streaming STEM pathways. So when I was started meeting with Craig, we're like, why did they put us together? Why did they put us together? So we hope today to be able to portray that to you of why they put us together. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh no, is it sleep? Is it sleep? Is it sleep? Let's see if I can use just the mouse.
Oh, I think it has to do when it came and touched our computer.
I know, we were working just fine. We were going great in here. We did it ourselves. And then he's like, oh, you guys set it up? I'm like, yeah, of course we did. We're faculty. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
There we are, right there.
Good, okay.
So we'll get into meeting the minds behind our mission and a little bit about our project teams and our overview. So I'm representing the Streamlining STEM Pathways, and what we were aiming to do was to clarify and communicate engineering and computer science transfer pathways. As many of you may or may not know, those are high unit degrees at the community college. Often when students transfer, there may be some unit accumulation or unit loss. And so really looking at keeping it student-centered, student-focused, how do we streamline that? And it really requires conversations. And so you'll see that as a thread. In addition, what we added was public health science. At the time was called public health science, which is now Public Health 2.0 as an ADT in the community college system. They were added as part of the STEM pathway because they already were a little further along, having already worked out some of their high unit options and coursework. So this is our team. There's Dr. Craig Hayward. The other PI is Jaynes. This is Jaynes, but it's Jaynes Zimmerman from UC Merced, myself, Julie Clark, who is with Merced College, and then not pictured, we had Erica Minchaka-Giblin from Bakersfield College as the Academic Senate President. Jason Dixon was from Bakersfield College, and Eric Chaw, who at the time was at UC Merced, but is now at LA Harbor College, and he's articulation. So as we get into it, one of the key components of this kind of work, especially pathways work, intersegmentally, is having the right people at the table. And so we ensured in our work that we had the right people at the table, a lot of Bakersfield people, but it started partially with a previous grant that was Central Valley centric. And that's why you see that, and that has now been scaled. Our partners are listed here. We had all three systems were represented in each one of the discipline areas, as well as the foundation support, the Kern Community College District, and of course, Learning Lab as our funder. Our campus liaison, so one of the aspects of how we were able to organize the work because it's a lift to get everybody together and get all these groups together, is that we went with the liaison model where the liaisons help to establish a consortium specific to their discipline. They attended the convenings, they took the notes, drafted and finalized the program maps, as well as publish our maps once we get them linked, and I can talk about that later, and then grow awareness. So how do you expand your consortium once the Central Valley, and we've expanded, actually it's throughout the state at this point. You can see the campuses represented. So it isn't just the Valley. Their first convening was here at UCLA. They do have participants from Cal Poly, Pomona, some UC, Santa Cruz. You can see all the way down all of the participants. So it really is starting to expand into a statewide represented group. So our overview is really looking to provide the best possible intelligence for the most widely accessible formation, which will create the opportunity to move the needle on transfer and have transformative impact on transfer outcomes. A lot. That's a statement. But really looking at, if we simplify the pathway, students know what they need to take. In doing so, we're able to overcome some of the barriers that students experience. And one barrier is in the community college system. We know that for advising, the range or the number of student to advisor ratio ranges from 1 to 700, one advisor that is, to 1 to 900. So imagine, I guess I like that word, imagine. Imagine this, that a student says, oh my goodness, I have registration on Monday, it's Friday. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to take. I'm doing pretty good in my classes, I think I'm good. What's next? They don't even try to see a counselor. Because if you go to walk-in, it's gonna be down to the Walgreens, which I walked yesterday, is half a mile. So it's down there. So what do students do? Often they don't do anything. And that's not what we want. Now we have a retention problem. We have students whose journey is delayed, but when they're able to know what that path looks like, however they're able to access that path, they then know, until I can see my counselor, it's pretty safe that I can take X, Y, and Z. Doesn't impact their financial aid. It keeps them on their journey. They don't take the class that their cousin from 3 years ago told them you might want to take this because, whatever that because reason was. And students are able to, as they continue on their journey, transfer without excess units accumulated and stay on the path. So that's really what this is the value of being able to communicate to students that clear pathway.
So us over here at Project Pipeline, so we are part of the Data Science Grand Challenge through California Learning Lab. Pipeline stands for Programs for Institutional Pathway Engagement, Accelerating the Infrastructure and Education. So we are a collaborative project among 4 institutions, so Cal State Fullerton, Rio Hondo College in Whittier, Riverside City College in Riverside County, and that has actually grown to their entire district, which includes Moreno and Norco, and then the University of California, Irvine. So our team consists of quite an interdisciplinary team from various backgrounds, as data science naturally does. So just to quickly go through who are the PI team members. So starting on the top left there, so Sam Becerra is actually currently a senior statistician at Kaiser Permanente, formerly faculty at Cal State Fullerton. Veronica Holbrook is a professor of mathematics at Rio Hondo College, myself. Kristen Kuryansky is an applied mathematician in our math department at Cal State Fullerton. Mary Legner is a professor of mathematics at Riverside City College. Armando Martinez Cruz is a mathematics educator in the Department of Mathematics at Cal State Fullerton. Anna Panagondan is a computer scientist in the Department of Computer Science at Cal State Fullerton. Mark Sanchez is a professor of mathematics at Riverside City College. Vivek Shalabat is a professor of statistics at UCI, and Dwight Wynn is a lecturer in statistics in the Department of Mathematics at California State University, Fullerton. So quite a wide array of backgrounds as we move forward to try to accomplish our initiatives with data science. Next slide, please. So what are the overarching goals of Project Pipeline? So as you can see, we are a very collaborative program, and really the goal is to develop these pathways. And it's not just developing pathways by developing courses and developing programs, but we want to develop those courses and those programs so that we can start to overcome equity gaps in data science. And that equity gaps can be multifaceted. So we really have three pillars of Project Pipeline. The first one is curriculum, right? We can't have a pathway if we don't have a curriculum to even begin to have a pathway with. And so there's three main components that we're looking at our curriculum with. The first one is content with context. The second one is culturally relevant pedagogy, and the third one is technology. And I'll expand upon those in a little bit and show you how we're actually executing that. Then we focus on training. We are actually a faculty training grant, and I'll talk more about that in a couple of slides. And lastly is building that community. And in fact, that community has actually expanded to what we call the community of data science learners, or short, CDSL. We all need another abbreviation in our life. But the idea is to engage the entire data science educational community. And that's not just higher education. That's also to bring in K-12, the community colleges, the Cal State system, and the UC system. Next slide, please. Sleep again.
There we go. Double punch.
So to go back to why are the two of us talking together? We try to create some common themes that are the underpinnings of both of our projects. So next we want to talk about the objectives that drives us. What are your objectives, Jennifer?
So my objectives are
to get the clicker to work.
There we go. So in strengthening the STEM transfer pathways, we really looked at streamlining the pathways which minimize unnecessary credit accumulation. Talked about that. The three areas we worked with was engineering, public health, and computer science. And the output would be that we would publish in the program Pathways Mapper to clearly visualize the student journey from community college to a four-year institution. So going back to what I explained is how do we communicate this to the student, that pathway? And what this, we can call it a 2+2, but in these high unit majors, it's more than 2 years. So we're really just saying a streamlined pathway, 2+3, whatever it's going to take, it's a clear pathway. And it's visualized in a manner that students can clearly follow. They can see, and if you go onto the website, what will happen at the top, you can see this would be the last semester at Bakersfield College in chemistry. So which isn't one of the ones here, but in chemistry, what it would look like. It shows the courses that they would take. You can see at the bottom, it'll say you'll receive your associate degree in transfer. Then on the in the tool, in the mapper, there is an arrow, which means it's time to transfer. And there's opportunity in that, probably not that last semester, but maybe the semester before, where we can add what we call a milestone card or informational card that would say to the student, make sure you apply to your receiving institution. You would be amazed at how many students don't know they have to apply. They don't know that they have to apply for graduation. Right, from their current institution. So we put those pieces of information in there. It's kind of those little secrets. We talk about our first gen students and our marginalized students, the students that don't have people who are able to guide them through. Here's the mapper. It becomes a friend to the students who may need just any student really, that just gives them good points in time. We add apply for your FAFSA, update your FAFSA. You know, so those kinds of little things that are on websites somewhere at every institution, students don't often put it together. So when they transfer, in the system, they'll have a drop-down menu that says this degree transfers to Cal State Bakersfield, and that's what the degree would be in. It would be American Chemical Society, and then underneath that would be very similar course cards with the exact courses from the CSU. When the student clicks on it, it's like, well, what is this course about? You know, I'm trying to think about what am I interested in right now? Which way do I want to go? They can click on the course card. It's exactly what the catalog says. It's the course description. So it tells them this is what this course is about. And all the cards are the course descriptions. There's one source of truth. The mapper doesn't have anything that isn't elsewhere as an approved source of truth. So it all comes from a catalog, which is your contract with the student. So that's extremely important to us as one of our overarching principles, so that we're not contradicting information, and a student needs to have faith and confidence in that source of truth. It hasn't led them astray, and so far we've heard that it hasn't.
All right, so along those lines of those pathways, the objectives of Project Pipeline are really threefold. But before I get into the 1, 2, and 3, I want to talk about the figure in the bottom left-hand corner there. So as a data scientist, I have to create a visual for you. I only have so much space on the slides to describe what it is, so I'll verbally describe it to you. So each of the circles actually represents the initials of the PI team. And then color here corresponds to certain activities. Say, for example, teaching experience, research experience, actually student to faculty mentor relationships, collaborative relationships. I want to show that our entire PI team is interconnected in some way. In fact, we're interconnected in multiple ways, whether that be through research, whether that be through teaching, or whether that be actually some of the PI team have been students of some of the other PI members. And we really believe that that has been a huge component of us being able to make progress on this project. So what progress are we trying to make? That brings us to our objectives. So objective number 1 is to create these institutional pathways, specifically in data science, between Riverside City College, Rio Hondo College, UCI, and Cal State Fullerton. And we really want to do this through the establishment of the new courses and programs. So number 2, we want to build those mechanisms for overcoming those equity gaps in data science by providing wider access to the technology. What does that technology even begin to look like? Incorporating culturally relevant pedagogy. How do we actually value the students that are in our classroom? And how do we integrate a content with the context that we're actually teaching so that the students can walk away understanding what they're learning? And lastly, we want to engender a sustainable data science culture, that community of data science learners, right? We want to inspire and support a diverse group of faculty and students in data science. And we really want to bring that community together. I'll just hang out.
There you go.
So driven by impact, right? So we have these objectives. So what is actually driving us to do this behind the scenes? So why do we do what we do?
Because of that.
Because it's leaking.
Because it's leaking. So we know the transfer system is leaking. There's holes. Students fall through. There's gaps. I don't think anybody takes issue with that. We want to be honest. So our why was to help students navigate that confusing, complex, and convoluted transfer system. What we know about transfer, we know a lot. But 2 of the key things that really tag on to our why is that only 1 in 5 eligible community college students transfer within 4 years. Not acceptable. Transfer pathways within STEM are complex, high unit, and unclear. So, and probably, I'm not the data person, that's Craig. If we asked him to do that, he probably has a statistic that builds upon the 1 in 5, which is probably less specific to STEM transfers. So that's what we know about transfer. So our solution then is to how do we increase that ability for community college students to successfully and efficiently transfer to a 4-year institution. And we do that by creating those clear pathways. And again, I'm not, I'll be honest, Craig probably would want me upside my head or something, but I'm not selling the mapper per se. I'm really selling a concept of how do we clearly tell our students what those paths look like. I will speak for the mapper. There isn't anything on the market like ours. However, I have seen some really nice 4-year static PDF maps that sequence and tell students the journey. So if you did a side-by-side, students are going to tell you which one they would prefer. But the bottom line is to serve students, it's really in how do we communicate those paths to our students, and how have faculty thoughtfully collaborated to create those pathways, to create trust in terms of rigor of what's occurring in each segment, so that students don't have to repeat upon transfer. So I'm one of those people that I'll call the elephant out. That was the elephant. Okay. So, but what we have found in conversation, it happens. It organically happens and the aha light bulb moments happen of, oh, wow, your course has that. And then you can see, and it's just a community college, they don't say that, but that's the wheel that's turning. And then the conversation immediately goes to respect, let's get going, let's collaborate. And I want to ditch my class and just let them take yours. So there is a lack of knowledge about what everybody does in their sector. You're discipline experts, but we don't know how the information is being communicated to our students. And there's an assumption that it may not be of enough rigor when they get to a four-year university, that they're not prepared. And I heard that yesterday and almost cringed. You know, we have underprepared students. So let's tackle the other elephant of the finger pointing. Community colleges, oh, they didn't come to us from K-12 with enough preparation. 4 years, all those community colleges students aren't prepared. So let's go into the mindset of who cares? The student is standing in front of you. How do you meet their needs? Yes, thank you. Oh, had some quotes. So those are my quotes. Sorry, okay. I'm getting off my soapbox. So you can see that there's some things I'm passionate about. So these are some quotes from students that have used the mapper just to really begin to show, trying to do focus groups to show, you know, are we accomplishing what we anticipated we would accomplish? How is this really working? It's a means of getting an evaluation. There are some quantitative data that is out there for the benefits and use of the mapper as a tool. This says it. Often people will say, especially advisors, where was this when I first started? People who have graduated, where was this when I was a student? So the need has existed for years.
So to touch upon the real world aspect of what you said before I get into our faculty fellows, I wholeheartedly echo everything that you just said, in the sense that through Project Pipeline, our eyes have been open to this. That in particular, I'd like to highlight our community college faculty who are really pioneering the way. And I have learned so much from them in how things are done. And actually, this is part of why I'm seeing that we were connected together, because as data science is in this early infancy, and there's so much talk and generation and development and implementation happening, it's important that you and I learn to communicate. Absolutely. Jennifer has convinced me that I'm not supposed to say I'm just a faculty member, because I've convinced myself I am just a faculty member, and I'm just a faculty member trying to make a difference for my students, maybe via faculty themselves. But at the end of the day, I don't know the other side of it. And you talk about these static PDFs. Who's creating those? PDFs. But it's funny, when we got connected and Craig started to explain to me about this program mapper, I said, well, where's Cal State Fullerton? We're the largest CSU among all 23 campuses. How come we're not in the mapper? Well, guess what? He goes, okay, I'm going to connect you to Jennifer. I get connected to Jennifer. I said, Jennifer, who do I talk to at my campus? I get connected to a person by the name of Mary Lynn Kassem, who, by the way, she was like an early on mentor for me, believe it or not. We actually studied brown widow spider eggs. Does anybody know about a brown widow spider egg? Highly encourage you to Google it. It has like this really cool like shape to it. And we were trying to figure out if there was some sort of mathematical model. Anyway, Mary Lynn has moved on beyond her biology days, and she now is, I don't know, they have so many titles as they move up. She's really big in undergraduate studies. And Mary Lynn is actually the one who was like, Jessica, you want to be involved in this? I was like, oh no, you sound way too excited. Should I have said yes to this? Turns out, behind the scenes, we are physically taking these static PDFs and looking at them and to create the 2+1, supposedly, depending on those high unit majors, math again, so that we can actually create these pathways for our students that are not static in that sense, so that they have a resource to go to. So
unintended consequence.
Unintended, now I see it.
There we go.
So all of this to say, and I do think that is relevant to what I'm about to share next. So Project Pipeline, like I said, it is a faculty training grant, in the sense that we have recruited 25 faculty fellows across our 3 institutions, Rio Hondo College, Riverside City College, and Cal State Fullerton. And this is where I have learned the true impact is happening. I should also make another note. Yes, we are a data science grant, but we are not just talking about data science in a data science classroom. We're not just talking about data science for a data science program. We want to bring data-oriented ideas to the classroom. And so if you look at the distribution, I'm a statistician, I can't help it, but if you look at the distribution of the disciplines, yes, we have 12 math, maybe they were, listening in when we got the grant or whatever it might be, but we have 12 math faculty, we have 4 business faculty, we have 3 math, science, and engineering, that's how they're classified over at Rio. We have 1 psychology, 1 economics, and 1 public health. So we're really trying to broaden the perspective of who data science is applicable to. We've even had some pro bono faculty from Los Angeles City College come and join us quite frequently. Right there. And so how did we kick this off? So these faculty fellows are involved in Project Pipeline for 2 years. In the very first semester, let's put it simply, we organized 4 workshops. I've taken the dates off because it's kind of traumatizing when I think how quickly we developed all of this, but we organized 4 workshops within a span of like 3 months for these faculty members. Each workshop was around 3 hours. We did do them on Friday afternoons, but believe it or not, we got pretty good attendance for this. And so we walked through the following steps. So the first workshop was to provide a holistic view of data science approaches. And what did that mean? We have been running an Introduction to Data Science course for the past 3 years. It was a special course. We were running it through another grant through NSF for a data science training program for students. And we really walked the faculty through what was data science. We very quickly learned that knowing what data science is a very uncomfortable thing for people. So we started there. What is data science? Where is data science applicable? And then we showed the real work of the students. In fact, all of our slides for these workshops can be found on our website, which I'll show at the end. But it's really nice to see the work of the students because we didn't just highlight the good from the students per se. We highlighted the learning from the students. We highlighted the mistakes and showed them how they can walk through and fix those mistakes. So that was workshop number 1. Workshop number 2, we started to get our hands dirty. What does that mean? We did data science through data analysis. Our co-PI, Dwight Wynn, took a stab at it and he ran R and Python side by side for this workshop. And we really got our hands dirty on how do we code in a data science class, because everybody asked, you're teaching an introductory data science course with very little prerequisites. They didn't have to know statistics beforehand. They didn't have to know coding beforehand. What does that look like? That's the question we get over and over again. So that was workshop number 2. Workshop number 3 was developing student-centered data science lessons. In other words, how do we value the students that are actually taking this course? How do we make this relevant for them? There were some really, really good ideas that came out of that workshop. And last but not least, we said, okay, how do we take this to the next step? How do we design a data science lesson? What does this actually mean? So we talked about eliciting data scientific thinking via a guest speaker from the LA Times who happens to be a data journalist. Does she have any formal degree in data science? No. But is she doing data science in the real world? You betcha. And she actually walked us through the US Census Reporter website. I don't know if anybody has tried to use that before, but it'd be quite complex, but it is a wealth of information. Real quick, just before you go, this post-it note activity that you're seeing on the right-hand side here has become quite infamous. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but basically when we started our very first workshop, we had 5 categories. So here are the 5 categories. So each of these categories is representing some sort of concept around data science. The last one actually being here, culturally relevant pedagogy, data visualization. I could go on and on and on. And then color here actually represents how comfortable faculty felt or how relevant they felt at the very beginning of our workshop series. And I should make note over here, this category, which I kind of left off, this category is called math and statistics. And blue was comfortable. So all of our fellows were feeling really comfortable here. And let me forewarn you, pink was not feeling so comfortable. So the culturally relevant aspect of it, as well as the computing side, is where we knew almost immediately had to work on these ideas. And I don't know if you noticed, but in the ballroom on the left-hand side, there's a post-it note activity over there. Next slide, please. I can do it for you. Oh, I'm
Did I go back?
Yeah, we're way ahead, but I can Go back up
There.
This is it, that's it,
Okay.
nope, you were right, that's right.
Right, yeah.
So that was the year 1 workshop series. There's a couple of other things that we did that I'll talk about later on based on how we structured this presentation, but we just started year 2 of Project Pipeline. And we actually had our first workshop on September 27th, and this was behind designing a data science module. Nobody's gonna be able to develop a whole data science course in a year. Oh, unless you're real Hondo and you can, I did. Compliments to you. Veronica Holberg's right back there. She's a PI at Honda. But how do we get data science into the classroom? Can we start with a module? Can a module be a 1-hour module? Can it be a 3-hour module? Can it be a week? And in fact, what we're really trying to do in year 2 is, sure, the PI team has great ideas, but our faculty fellows have way greater ideas than we do. So as you can see here, Mansour Abduli, who is a lecturer in the Department of Mathematics, actually designed a module on data visualization for our faculty fellows. Next slide, please. I feel like I should click for you. Now, I know there's a lot happening on here, but we really try to follow our principles that we're actually preaching. Can you believe it or not? And so if you remember, we're really trying to stick to this idea of culturally relevant pedagogy. In other words, how can we get engagement from our students in various ways? How can we see where they're understanding? How can we move beyond, as the panel says, how can we move beyond the essay? Right? I know data science isn't the essay, but how can we find out that information in other ways? So here you can actually see we started our workshop in year 2, reviewing what we did in year 1. I could have made 10 slides that said, hey, you did this in workshop 1, you did this in workshop 2, but instead we decided to get their data. In the top left-hand side, we're asking, what technology are you using? Remember, that's one of our pillars. What technology are you using? And there's 3 scales. So call it low, medium, and high, for lack of better words for right now. And we're seeing where are the faculty actually using technology. In the top right-hand side, we also came up with 6 steps for the data science life cycle. We're like, hey, which of those steps do you tend to use? And where are you using them? Are you using them in the classroom? Are you using them in your research? It was very interesting that step 1, which we call science and context, was the most heavily used step. And I feel like as faculty members, especially coming from a statistics side, we don't often allow a lot of space in the classroom for that science and the context, which happens to be a very important part of the process. On the bottom right, left-hand side, I guess for you guys, on the bottom right-hand side, it says put a sticker on the scatter plot to indicate your level of comfort with the following aspects of culturally relevant pedagogy. The vertical axis on the left-hand side is sharing, on the left-hand side is sharing authority. And then on the horizontal axis on the left side, oh, come on, is supporting deep learning. Gee, you experienced this in the other talk. What did we have to do?
Canceling you?
No. Oh,
There we
okay,
go.
it's gone way longer. Okay, Jennifer, we gotta go in hyperspeed.
There we go. Yep.
Was it light speed yesterday decided?
Yeah.
That was the speed at which we were moving. But I can't help. I'm a faculty at heart. I have to go to the board. But I want to highlight that this was feeling really comfortable and this was feeling really comfortable. This is not so comfortable. This is not so comfortable. So you can see our faculty are really starting to feel comfortable with those ideas of sharing authority as well as supporting the deep learning. To keep it simple, this one over here is engaging students in valuing their identity. So we're really starting to see those trends and how they could actually achieve these objectives. And last but not least, I challenge you guys all to do this actually. In 5 words or less, answer the question. Why data science? 5 words or less. Why data science? Just to highlight a couple, social justice works. It helps our brains learn. Jobs, informed decision making, more in depth. Eric, to call you out on this one, can we highlight that one? More in depth. I feel like if there's one battle that I have to fight as a data scientist, it's the more in-depth battle. Next slide, please. And so just to go back to those data science modules, that's where we're turning Project Pipeline in year 2. Our faculty fellows actually have been challenged. We have challenged them to come up with a data science module. I don't think it's really a challenge for them. In fact, yesterday during one of the panels, one of my faculty fellows texted me. She was like, so you gave us like 30 to 40 minutes. She's like, if anybody goes really short, can we have their like 15 to 20 minutes? She's like, we're gonna need more time. And they were also like, I have a bunch of material that I want to share with everybody. Where can we post this? So I think our faculty fellows are really excited to do that. And we don't want to just create arbitrary modules. We want to create our modules with the intent of actually answering the student learning objectives that we're developing. And that was a part that I left off in our earlier workshops, but you can see we also had the teams come up with some student learning objectives. So how do we break down the barriers? We have passion.
Yep.
What are you gonna do?
Our work has evolved. We're gonna keep on keeping on. And that's how we're doing this. So just to, because we're going into warp speed. This is just a little bit about how the evolution of the work. So we started here at the Luskin Center back in March of 23. The disciplines came together with the overarching aspects of the grant. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna work on? And start developing a plan. Then in December, we had a Zoom meeting and they started to, where are you? How are the liaisons working, creating that community? They went into breakout rooms and started the work. We then moved into the next convening, whoops.
You want me to?
Please go back.
I'm like, let's just.
It's going forward, I'm pushing back. One more. Then we moved into the Fresno convening in May of 24, where again, it was more planning, working, and now it's starting to flesh out what are these pathways going to look like. And then we're having a bonus convening next month, where we're really now gonna move into strategic planning. Where are you landing now? What's still remaining to do? Because it was very challenging for computer science. So they have a little bit more work to do to get a pathway. But the others are just kind of now honing their pathway, and public health is done. So what's next? How do you stay on those objectives and now move this throughout the state? Create a movement. Next slide. So the work, this is pretty much just where we are at the moment. Public health has aligned with the 2.0 ADT. Engineering is now proposing a transfer certificate. And in that certificate, the students, they've created and I'll get to it on the next slide. I'll show you what they've done. And then computer science has really been challenged because of computer languages. So they just can't agree on what language do students take at a community college, because it's very dependent on where they transfer. So if you take one language and you transfer here and they have a second language, then you gotta repeat a class. So they're trying to figure that out. Do we have students take all languages? I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound like that's a good solution. So they're working. Next slide. So showcasing the work of public health. So again, this is another way of looking at that 2+2. They actually are a 2+2. So the public health science degree on the left at Bakersfield College and what it looks like when they transfer to the public health degree at Cal State Bakersfield. And they do have a small network where they're working with other CSUs that have public health degrees, so that the Bakersfield students can then do a drop down and be able to see, oh, I could go to Northridge, or oh, I could go to Fullerton, or where else could I go? Having those conversations, and then it would show, instead of Cal State Bakersfield logo, it would show the CSU logo of where they're transferring. And so it visualizes that bachelor's degree path. Next slide. So engineering, this is what they landed on. So they landed on a foundational core sequence of required classes for all streams. So if you don't know, I'll give you a super high level, but engineering isn't just engineering. You have civil, electrical, and maybe more mechanical, chemical. Those are the four I can think of.
They all have more than 20 units.
They're all more than 20 units. They're all up into 80s, maybe some. And they all have different prep. So a student at a community college can't really get an engineering degree and go somewhere because they didn't have the undergraduate prep to go somewhere. So what they've landed on, and they're now in the process of working with the ASCCC at the community college level to get their blessing for the curriculum wide, because it's a different thought process of these transfer certificates. What you'll notice is the decrease, I guess I would say, in general education.
Yeah.
It's heavy in discipline.
That's why it's a certificate, right?
That's why it's a certificate, and that's why it's a thought process challenge. What do you mean? This is what the group has come up with. This is what they believe their students need to be successful in transfer. Is they want them exposed to that engineering content earlier.
Yeah.
So that's what for the core courses would look like, no matter electrical, chemical, whatever, that would be those 19 units. Then the varied, I'll call them emphasis. electrical, chemical, whichever one, urban, civil. Then they would have their core courses anywhere in the 50s to 60s range, hopefully not quite 60 because it's up there. But that's what that would look like. So next slide. Next slide shows what mechanical started to work on. Okay, so you can see just a little bit of differences. And so this is interdisciplinary, CSU, UC, and community college, all at the table. This is what they're hoping to be able to get support from their system-wide systems. Then what's not pictured here is the intent for a student, if they would like to get that associate degree, is to do a process of what they're calling reverse transfer. So they could go through here with their certificates, go on to the university, the four-year institution, and once they maximize their GE attainment, could then apply back at the community college to get that associate degree. Okay, so there's that opportunity. So genius. Genius. So if you think about maximizing the strengths in the systems is really what they're trying to do. Next slide.
Oh, it's me. So while I said Project Pipeline is about training faculty, that also is going to come with course development. So we are happy to share that Riverside City College officially has launched a Foundations of Data Science course. That was actually prior to Project Pipeline, but they have started executing it. With that, Riverside Community College District, I should have said, it includes Norco College, Moreno Valley College, and Riverside City College. They have an associate's degree in data science that they are running now. Not an associate's degree for transfer, but an associate's degree in data science.
It's almost there.
And then, as I've already called out, Rio Hondo College, not only did they propose 2 new courses, one Foundations of Data Science and 2 Statistics for Data Science, they also came up with a new prefix, DSCI. So DSCI 100 and DSCI 101.
That's not a department though. Somebody's like, how do you make a new department? It's just a prefix. It's under the math department.
Nice.
And it's different. It doesn't have to be. Your prefix is not a department.
Right.
Curriculum computer.
There we go.
Thank you. That's why she approved it. She's like.
And happy to share that DSCI was proposed last fall and you were teaching it this fall.
Awesome.
That's an efficient timeline. At Cal State Fullerton, we have Math 237, which is our Foundations of Data Science course, and Math 337 is our newest edition, Introduction to Computational Statistics. Oh, I don't have wrong computer. Oh, it worked. So all of this to say, I've talked a lot about the faculty side of things, but we're also interested in, remember, that data science community. How do we keep this sustainable? What are the long-term impacts of this? In other words, what happens when Project Pipeline ends? We hope it doesn't all go away, but really, what's the sustainability behind it? I love the way that you put, let's stop pointing the fingers. Let's stop pointing the fingers and actually provide some solutions. And so what we are also doing with Project Pipeline is we are training pre-service teachers. At Cal State Fullerton in our math department, over half of our majors are future teachers. Why can't we help those future teachers get the exposure to data science now? So this past spring, we had 3 future teachers, Eduardo, Andrew, and Melissa, who worked actually on the California Mathematics Framework. Look at Chapter 5, Mathematical Foundations for Data Science. And they actually worked directly with Dr. Martinez-Cruz on developing an observation tool for data science around culturally relevant pedagogy. Keep going.
Awesome.
And we're happy to report that a program has come out of this. So at Cal State Fullerton, again, I will repeat, we are the largest CSU. We have over 40,000 students. So we had to form an entire campus-wide committee. We called it the Data Science Committee. It had dean representatives from every college on our campus, and then the deans were asked to then select faculty that they thought might be interested in these ideas to be the reps to bring data science back to their colleges. And so that committee met for over a semester, actually I should say only a semester, and they came up with the data science minor. And I'm happy to report that this minor will actually be in the catalog this spring 2025 at Cal State Fullerton. And I do want to mention something about it. Remember, the premise of our grant is not necessarily just data science courses. It's to bring data to the classroom. And so with that, this data science minor is to be viewed from the lens of We want data science to be applicable. We want data science for all students to be able to achieve that. And so if you go dig deeper into some of these courses, you'll see that there's not a heavy math, stats, or computer science prerequisite. We want it to complement their degrees. So to broaden our community, again, we're after community, we're after sustainability. Look at Edward right there. Across our community, we love what Berkeley has been doing all of these years with data science. So the National Data Science Education Workshop that's been happening for
Might as
so
well
many
schedule
years.
something the same week.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
It's all good, it's all good, it's all good.
We wanted to bring data science to the Southern California community. We love what you do, but not everybody has travel funds to get to you, right? There's a whole Southern California community that, yes, it's on Zoom, but we wanted to create that community down here. So we created the Data Science in the Classroom DSC conference at RCC. I want to highlight that our keynote address is actually a biologist by training, a computational biologist. And it's quite interesting to listen to his talk and how he really has experienced the ideas and the struggles that we're experiencing in data science as an interdisciplinary field. We'll keep going though, since we're on hyperdrive. We had 57 people attend this. It was completely free, so I call it a pretty good turnout. Considering it was the same week, we didn't even attend it, but it happened to be the Friday of the Berkeley workshop. And here's our keynote address. I think we should just highlight the challenge that he said there. How can one effectively teach students about computational biology when the methods draw on so many disparate fields? Like how do we do that when there's so many ideas being evolved? And actually an observation, I can't resist. Almost every successful scientist had an important mentor that guided him or her at an early stage.
Nice.
So,
So we have, I'm gonna,
are we
we have
Right.
4 minutes,
Yeah.
and our last 2 sections were navigating project challenges and what's next in our journey. So, let's take it from the audience. Which way would you like us to go? We're fluid, flexible.
Challenges or what's next?
What was that?
Collect some
I don't
data.
know. What's next? What's next?
What's next?
Okay.
Let's get to what's next.
All right.
Yeah. We can leave that to bad.
So you're gonna get the quick visual of what was bad. So what's next? And I've mentioned this already for streamlining pathways. Public health is looking to expand their network. Engineering, they're continuing. Greg Potty, who is retired from here, UCLA, has also received, and I think it's an NSF grant, but don't quote me, but he has a 5-year grant to further develop and implement the engineering
I think
certificates.
that's a learning lab grant.
Yeah.
Is it Learning Lab?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
don't
CLM
get
grant.
quoted. It's a Learning Lab grant,
You
even
should be
better.
in the room right now.
Honesty, by the way.
Common theme. He's retired, you're retired, but
Yeah.
you're back in the game.
There you go.
No, actually, he's at a meeting for the Engineering Liaison Council up north, so he couldn't make
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
So they're continuing the work, so look for that in the future. And computer science, their work is continuing. They're even thinking things here about bringing in AI and how can AI start to help maybe bridge those great gaps. So somebody had said, and I don't know how they will do it, but something along the lines of exploring, if you have one language, can AI translate it into another language? Oh, well, they're great. So then why would students, thank you for that. So then why would students need to take another course?
Is it 100% correct all the time? Or?
Well, but then you can have some oversight. That's why humans will never be done. So follow our ongoing work. We do have a website, www.programmapper.org. It has all of the institutions that are on the mapper, and you can just kind of scroll through and see who's connected, who's working. If you have your institution and do want to be involved, connect with me when we're all said and done. And I'm the Chief Partnership Officer. That's my job.
And I threw one more slide in without telling you, but I couldn't resist because Project Pipeline, I don't want to say it was the seed, but a lot of initiatives around data science have really happened since then. On the left-hand side there, you're seeing 25 PK. Those are teachers who train or teach 4-year-olds through 5th grade teachers infusing data science into their classroom. Guess what? They're already doing data science. They just haven't been exposed to the data science cycle. So we train 25 teachers in a week-long workshop at Cal State Fullerton, gonna do it again this summer. And then I also want to highlight 4 of my colleagues over at Cal State Fullerton who have actually been working on some of these ideas that we're trying to preach within data science in their project sponsored by NSF, Project Meta over here, and the ideas behind the culturally relevant pedagogy. Last but not least, and the last but not least is on me, and I'll go back over it. If you want to follow along for any of Project Pipe, you and I
Okay,
come
let's
together.
not
If you
touch
want to follow along for Project Pipeline's updates, we have a website, pipelinedata.science.org. We also have a web form which was navigating one of our challenges, so community.pipeline.datascience.org. And there you can contribute to our web form. We're starting to get these conversations happening in a public space. And lastly, a lot of our material can be found on GitHub. Plus a whole host of other things happening.
Cool.
The plug for doing your surveys.
Evaluation.
Oh, yeah.
We do have a slide for that too.
It's really helpful for learning lab.
That's it.
Yes,
The thing.
Great session.
thank you.
All right, so I'm just gonna dig into like what's my personal issue is like, everyone's like, we want an ADT for data science. And a little bit of like, so the community college instructor was like, if I don't have this ADT, like I can't go forward and like I need it to offer the classes. Like they need it for some thing that's like holding them back
Yeah.
administratively, financially, right, structurally. But, and then I know at the UC level, I did a bunch of work and there's a UC transfer pathway. That's not a binding thing. That's not like an ADT, but it says a list of 6 or 7 classes at the UC level. I feel like, and it's not at all pointed at you, there's not enough consensus at the CSUs of what a data science major is. There's not enough CSUs that have a data science major. Like Fullerton, you guys are like the best ever, but you don't have this data science major. So this is just a weird moment where you're like, I want to build an ADT. This ADT is supposed to be like your ticket into CSU, and the CSUs, like they're not all offering it. They're not offering like a consolidated thing, but they're not all even offering it, right? And it's gonna take 5 years till like all the CSUs have data science or something. So we're like in a weird, like building the ship while, I don't know what the analogy is, like
Building the plane while we're flying it.
building the plane while we're flying it kind of thing.
I preach this literally probably every day at my campus. To speak to your dean specifically, who said this morning, what is it that over half of the students at Berkeley take the Introduction to Data Science course?
Right,
Is it true? It's the largest major?
biggest major at Berkeley.
The biggest major at Berkeley.
Wow.
And I have to sit there and argue with faculty
Yeah.
within the CSU that we need this. And they're gonna go, well, how are you gonna fill the courses? I'm like, the courses will fill, but how do I sell that argument? What do I do?
Well, so a little bit of my question is like, you know, over to Program Mapper, like, how do we get help to like wrangle the cats of CSU?
That's a good
CSU
point.
math, like, do you have convening power to be like, hey, CSU math chairs, we really need, people are knocking on the door, you know, like, how do we, you know what I mean? Like, does Program Mapper have any way to?
So what I'm thinking, don't give me a reason to think,
So I just told him about that.
is, what did you just tell them about?
Winter meeting.
We're gonna have a winter meeting at UCI. I don't know if anybody's heard of this thing called the CSU Math Council.
Yes.
We
Jude
would
is
like-
just like totally on board.
We would love a
Head of it.
CSU Data Science Council.
Ooh.
So we're planning.
I know, I just exposed the idea. Please don't steal it from me.
We're 100% behind you.
Elbow deep in it right now.
Like, it's just in planning right now, so. Trace
Yeah,
wants to
but-
take it
we
down,
don't-
Trace
but
wants
we
to talk
can't-
about it.
Yeah, they're tweeted right now.
We can't do it on our own. We can't do it on our own. No, so we need your help. We need your help, and I entirely agree with Eric, that
So
within the system.
Let's collaborate, because my thought is understanding the process of in a community college, in order to propose a TMC, which will lead to the ADT to be developed, has to demonstrate that there's 4 CSUs that offer the degree.
4 CSUs.
Only 4?
Like, that's a totally different criteria. I'm ready
I
to go
can
with
make
4.
that. I think we might be
San
at 4.
Diego, San Jose.
East Bay
Now let me
Humboldt.
double check.
and Channel Islands is getting theirs off.
Yeah.
We're at
Make
4.
sure it's not regional.
Yeah, we can do that.
But that, so if that criteria is there, then,
That's
supporting your community colleges to make that request.
We should even have like a, like a year approved and then like a future year on the
Yeah.
like longer tail.
So that's something, let's just think about that, and then also modeling, what I'm thinking is, Craig's not here, but I love to shop, so let's help him spend his money. Maybe figure out, is there a funding stream to add data science and start the process like what we've done with
Yes.
engineering, STEM, and
Yeah,
it's a pathway, it's a
Yeah.
pipeline.
yes.
Maybe
What
it
is
comes
the
out
cost?
of,
Explain the
Pipeline.
funding part.
so the funding, it's the convenings and they pay for travel.
So
And
to
they
have,
may
to
give
host a
faculty.
meeting.
To host a meeting, yeah, there may be, and it may not be him, we might lead it, collaborate, partner, somebody else might have funding, it's usually travel. Zoom
Okay.
works, but it doesn't,
Yeah,
there's
we
nothing
can,
like
I
being
would be
around the
willing to
table and let's chat,
collaborate on that.
It's a pipeline to the pathway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So this is a question for like the program manager, sure piece of it. So I grew up in Bakersfield. I took class at UC,
Uh-huh.
CSUB,
Uh-huh.
and I had brilliant classmates in high school who ended up staying at BC for 4 years. Like the smartest kids in my math classes, science classes. And it really just like made my heart sink. So I want to know if you're like communicating with KHSD, your high school district, or like communicating these pathways at the high school level.
So, what they are working on is actually a module, when you go into the mapper, you choose like your majors like sciences and humanities. At the bottom, some of the schools are now having dual enrollment. So then through dual enrollment, students are using the pathways as well as for outreach. When they go out, you know how they go to the high schools and say,
Yes.
come to BC?
Yeah.
They use the mapper to show what you will do when you get to BC.
Great.
So yes, yes, and yes. And expansion is en route. So dual enrollment is one of the next features that will be statewide. And actually, I think it's Chafee that's already doing it. They actually have, and they do it's non-credit, but they're calling it adult services. So again, what populations are we able to tap to show a journey or a path to maybe a high wage earning career versus education and college, and at what age, down to dual enrollment?
I think we need to thank California Learning Labs.
Thank you
because
so much.
Making it so we don't backtrack, right? Now we know why
Yes.
we were paired together.
Yes.
Right? We don't need to go backwards and do this, such as public health and engineering and computer science. Eric is entirely right. Like, how do we move forward to the pathway?
Replicate what some of us have done, so
Exactly.
collaborating, awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Don't forget to fill out your survey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look.